Lindsey Epperly and her husband, Jeremy, first visited Serenbe in March 22, tagging along with a pair of friends who were interested in a possible move. As it turned out, Lindsey and Jeremy had zero plans to move at the time, yet they were the ones who ended up here instead. Lindsey described Serenbe as a place where her family immediately knew they belonged, particularly following a difficult period and transition. Lindsey is the founder and CEO of Jetset World Travel, an independent boutique travel agency where she has scaled from a one-person operation into a team of over 70 dedicated agents, in which was recently recognized as one of Inc.'s 5,000 fastest-growing companies. In this episode, Steve and I chat with Lindsey about running a modern travel agency, her favorite places in the world, working alongside her husband, and raising her 2 young children in Serenbe.
But then there are just times where I go, I'm good. I know what I have. I look out in my own backyard, which is this beautiful protected trail. I'm in Selborne. And especially on a rainy day like today, I'm a very moody traveler. So send me to Scotland in the cold rain and I'm happy. So this is my version. So
okay.
Is that a silly answer?
No,
as much as I live and travel, I love it here.
Lindsey, thank you so much for joining us on Serenbe Stories this morning. It's so good to see you.
Thank you for having me, Monica and Steve. I'm really excited to be here.
Looking forward to the conversation.
I know we're excited to have Steve back. We've had some guest hosts here and there the past few episodes. So Lindsey, as you probably know, or hopefully, I'm sure you're listening to Serenbe Stories every minute of your day.
All the time.
The first thing we ask everybody is, what is your Serenbe story? Which is really sort of how did you discover it? And how did you come to move here?
Yeah, I love my Serenbe story because I feel like Serenbe for me was the prize at the end of a very long, tumultuous journey. Okay. So kind of a 24-month period where just one thing after another occurred. And we were actually celebrating the end of one of those occurrences, a very miraculous medical journey. And some of my best friends, my husband and I had a 1-year-old at the time. And my best friends said, we are really interested in this place called Serenbe. They lived in Atlanta. We had previously lived in Atlanta. We were considering moving back. And they said, we really want to go check out Serenbe because we're interested in moving there. Mm-hmm. And we said, well, we have no interest, but we'll come meet you. We're going to celebrate this medical milestone and actually meet you guys here and just have a fun weekend away. And we wound up moving here, and they did not.
As it happens, we absolutely fell in love. It's kind of like if you get it, you get it. And it was immediate for us. Yeah, that's great. So how long ago was that?
So that was March of 2022. So we'll be going on 2 years.
Okay, good. Yeah. And you guys were in Atlanta before that?
Somewhat. So we kind of called Brookhaven home.
Okay.
We had a little bit of a pandemic journey. We moved back home to my hometown of Columbus, Georgia, in order to have my daughter to get some extra support. We are in the travel industry, which is not one I would recommend during a world pandemic.
No.
So as you all well know. So yeah, we definitely had to move back home for a little bit and kept going, where are we going to call home? I mean, part of this journey was we had a home under contract in Brookhaven when everything hit. And we decided, are we going to keep the home or are we going to keep the business? And decided, let's keep the business. We know that we can really turn this into something on the other side of this pandemic. And so we walked away from our home. And at that point, we lost community. We lost our home. We lost all sense of, relationally, where are we as a family? And even though we were living back in my hometown, it never quite felt like the place we were supposed to be. So that was what was so amazing about discovering Serenbe is immediately as we came here, we thought, this was what it was all for. This is exactly why we were derailed because we never would have found this otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of halfway back to Atlanta.
Exactly.
Columbus.
Yes, yeah, we're right in the middle. It's perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And your family's all still in Columbus?
My family's in Columbus. Jeremy's is in Atlanta. And so it's, exactly. Good middle point.
Yeah.
Perfect. We love Columbus. It's such a great city.
Yeah.
So did you guys meet, you and Jeremy, your husband, our partner, in Atlanta, or were you outside of Atlanta traveling? Tell me how you guys came together and how did you start the travel business?
Yes. So Jeremy and I met in college at a potluck.
Okay.
This was a friendship for 6 years. We both were always kind of interested, but we always had a significant other, and we just really became very good platonic friends. And one day we went to a wine auction together and he leaned over in an Uber and planted a kiss and the rest is history. So we got married pretty quickly after that because we knew each other so well. And what was so funny, I had actually started the travel business and it was then called Epperly Travel, my maiden name. And I'll tell you guys a little bit about how it became Jetset eventually. But I had started this travel business and he was so interested in being involved in it. And I remember even when we were friends, he said, like, can I have a job? I'm like, absolutely not. No. And then when we got engaged, I had kind of a right-hand employee just abruptly decide to change industries. And I was just spiraling. What do I do next? And he said, can I please have a job? Can I please apply for that position? And I was like, no possible way. We're getting married. This will be a terrible decision. And we just kept talking about how working together, especially owning our own business together, would eventually result in freedom and flexibility, which are the two milestones of who we are. That's our core values as a family, as a company, as individuals. So we said, let's try it. You know, we're young and dumb. We don't know any better. We will get married. Jeremy will quit his job in finance and he'll come to work for my travel agency all in the same week. So that's what we did.
Wow.
I like a leap of faith.
Big week.
Yeah, big week. We just didn't know any better, you know?
Right. No, but that's sometimes how things happen. You don't know any better.
Yeah.
I'm staring at Steve right now.
As I always say, it's important to follow your heart rather than your logical brain.
Yes.
And part of the problem our whole society is we've forgotten how to do that.
It's so true. It's so true. It was very much, I feel like Jeremy was saying, this is my heart. This is where I want to go. And I was at first logicking and saying, no, but that every story you hear like that falls apart. But it doesn't have to be your story.
That's right. That's right. And there are many on the other side that don't.
Yeah. Yes. And so far, so good.
That's good.
Good. I love it.
We're still married.
So you had created Epperly Travel.
Mhm.
Had travel always been something you wanted to get into? Had you been doing it in college? Like, tell me a little bit about why the travel industry.
Yes. So I grew up actually going on cruises. My parents, for a very brief period of time, owned a cruise holidays franchise. So I was like platinum on Royal Caribbean when I was 13. And I loved that, but I didn't really know any different. I knew an entrepreneurial lifestyle because I saw my dad do that. I saw him run a small chain of tire stores. And I always knew that I would be an entrepreneur. Kind of was like in my DNA, right? Like I'm 5'2", I'm brunette, I will be an entrepreneur. And I, at 19 years old, wandered into a local travel agency for a brochure for a cruise that we were going on. And I accidentally walked out with a job. So it was one of those college student yeses, you know, when you were like, yes to everything, I'll try it. And so they said, what if you sold honeymoons while you're still in school because your friends are getting married? You can go to bridal shows and sell these honeymoons. So that was how I got my start. But as I looked around almost immediately, I entered into the industry where there were very, very, very few younger people coming into it. I started seeing so much potential of what a modern travel agency could look like. You know, the misconception that the travel agency industry was dead was so far from the truth. And I just started seeing ways that we could amplify that.
Well, so that's a great question then, and sort of leading into like, because you do think, well, why do I need an agent? You know, the digital came about. My husband and I were driving up in Atlanta past like a little mini mall. And I was like, I have this flash of a memory of us picking up United Airline tickets for our honeymoon there. And I'm like, you know, walking in and picking up paper tickets. It shows my age. But it has changed so much, right?
Yeah.
So talk about a little bit like where you were when you came into it, because I think an agent can be that perfect person who can guide you to somewhere you never knew you'd want to go. So like, why this? And then, you know, how did you buy the Jetset and make this larger company?
Yes, for sure. So I worked as a frontline advisor for a decade. And that was my favorite thing in the world because it had changed from a transactional business. Probably, Monica, when you went and picked up your tickets, that was a transaction that was done back and forth over a desk. They typed it up on the typewriter and then you got your paper tickets because that's what you said you needed. And it really evolved into a relationship business. And so it really was so much less about transacting and so much more about getting to know the person and getting to know that dream in the back of their head and saying, all right, they want to stay in overwater bungalows. They have this price point. They're willing to go this far. Where can I send them that's going to fulfill that dream? So it was such a fun way. And then I would get to be involved in people's, you know, their bucket list memories. So you're really crafting this. They're bringing you this unbelievable gift of this fragile little memory of, I want this to happen. And you get to steward that into your reality. So it was really, really special as a frontline advisor. And I did that for many, many years and loved it. But I also loved the business side of things. And it was very hard to hold both of those truths and actually run two businesses at once, right? To scale this and also to serve clients. And so I realized I was really gifted at mentoring other advisors and I could help them serve the clients and I could build up the business. And that's what I had been doing kind of both and when Jeremy entered the picture. And he, thank God, possesses a left side of the brain while I possess a right side of the brain. And so he was able to come in and say, all right, what you're doing is great, but if you want to get to this next point, we're going to need some systems and processes. And so I said, that sounds no fun at all to me, but you do your thing. That's great. And so we were able to kind of figure it out together. And when it came to actually growing, I mentioned during the pandemic, we decided to walk away from the house in order to build this business. And what we did to build the business was we gave the team a mantra, and that mantra was be a beacon. So throughout the darkest hours of this industry, as everyone is having to cancel plans and we're all feeling our purpose and our passion just kind of, lose steam, we wanted to lean into it and say our job is to light the way. And in doing so, we actually attracted some really cool individuals to our team. And we attracted the potential to purchase another travel agency that we had always admired. And that's Jetset World Travel, which is what we are known as today after a rebrand.
Okay, so this is in the midst of the dark pandemic.
Yes.
That we all know we're trapped at home. I mean, we tend not to want to talk about it anymore, right? We're all through it. It's all gone.
It's so long ago now.
So long.
But I think we were fantasizing about where we could go, what we could do. And so that computer was right in front of us. We were, forced onto screens. It was the only way we could conduct business, if you will, at the time. We forgot,
Yeah.
So from there, Jetset was, you were able to sort of pick that up. I mean, guessing they, weren't able to make it. So that's great that you were able to pick that up. And so you've really grown it since then. And I think another one of at least one resident, Jen Wilson, works for you, right?
Yeah.
Do you have any other travel advisors within the Serenbe community?
We are very fortunate. So Jen Wilson, we didn't have anyone when we first moved in. And Jen was kind of interested in a career transition.
Yeah.
And our friend Natalie Aldridge, who works in the travel industry as well, put us in touch. And then about 6 months ago, Jennifer Anderson Mende came down with her husband. And so she has actually been an advisor on my team since we first started. So we will turn 10 this year. And I think Jennifer was with us actually before we even incorporated. So I joke that I've been with Jennifer longer than I have Jeremy. So it's so fun that she actually lives right around the street. And we have over 70 advisors. So that's a pretty interesting thing that we now have 2 in Serenbe.
Well, I think you need to get more, right?
And these 70 are spread out where?
They're all over the U.S. We're a virtual company. So we chose to be a virtual company before it was, en vogue. And so we used to be on this thing called Zoom that no one had ever heard of. And then the pandemic actually kind of sped up the process of being a virtual company, which worked out in our favor.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
So what are your favorite places to travel?
Well, I used to do a lot more before I had the 2 kids that I have now. So I can just live a little bit vicariously through my former self, who was gone at least once, if not twice a month internationally.
Nice.
Because we have to test out the products. Of course. You can't recommend something without trying spa. As I say, of Serenbe too, I have to test out the product. So my all-time favorite place is South Africa.
Okay.
Yeah. And I am
What
not.
part?
I love Cape Town and would live in Cape Town. But my favorite hotel, which is owned by some really amazing individuals who I keep trying to get to Serenbe, so I'm going to actually send them a copy of this recording, is Singita Properties. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but Luke Bales, who's behind it, and his son Joe is now their CEO. They run a beautiful, sustainable practice that just gives back and elevates their community in each of the areas that they're in. So they're in Kruger, which is one of my favorites, but they're all over South Africa, and I've been to some of their East Africa properties as well.
Okay. I think we need an inspiration trip, Steve.
That's right.
A little marketing. Yeah.
I actually think you would get a lot out of it.
No, I mean, I'm half joking,
Well, something just dawned on me. We should pull you in. Phil Tam and I have talked that we should lead a biophilic tours to great examples around the world.
Yeah, and absolutely.
It's just, one of those cocktail conversations. We haven't done it any further, but this could be the beginning.
I know,
we'll look back and say, remember that podcast?
No, seriously, because we've talked about Singapore or all the biophilic cities and go see all the... All right. Okay. That's a whole nother podcast we'll have to start. So if we want to not biophilic travel, but if we want to work with Jetset and an advisor, how does that work? Do I just pick up the phone, send an email? What's the process?
Yeah. So we have a request a trip form on the website.
Okay.
It's really one of the best ways to get started because it starts pulling some of those questions that an advisor would start to ask. It's not just about where do you want to go, because some people know, but some people have no idea. And so it's starting to get a better picture of what is it you're actually envisioning, and then let us be the experts and match you to that. Some people know exactly what they want, and that's great, and we can add all sorts of wonderful perks and benefits. But for those who don't especially, it's a really fun process to work with an expert who We call ourselves generalist agents because we specialize in 4- and 5-star destinations across the globe. So we're able to really pull from that knowledge in our community and say, all right, they've got this dream. Have they ever considered this specific destination? And half the time people have not, because they just don't know that it's going to fulfill their needs and their wants.
I love that. Do you do Midwestern college tours? Because that's what I'm planning right now.
Not yet, but Monica, it sounds like a good specialty. Are you interested in coming on?
Steve, this is it. This is my resignation. I'm going to go be the college. But seriously, I think you could make some money probably doing college tours for kids or for adults. Yeah. No, seriously.
More interesting.
Okay. So whoever.
College counseling.
Yeah. Okay.
So are there any emerging places that no one thinks about on top of mind that you see?
Yeah. It's always interesting to study those trends, especially because, well, first of all, going into 2020, one of the biggest problems was over-tourism in a lot of destinations. And now that's coming back, right? Because we're sending too many people to the same place to take the same Instagram photo. So there are destinations that are coming into vogue and, it changes every year. But this year, hot topics are Slovenia, Panama. Portugal is one that I think is almost at that breaking point of too many, but it's still one of my favorites. I'm plugging it just because I'm going to spend the summer there.
Okay, wait. Now, you just dropped a bomb there. You're spending the summer in Portugal. Talk to us about that. How old are your kids and how are we doing this? Because we need to emulate.
Right. Okay. So I have a 3.5-year-old and a 1-year-old.
Ooh, okay.
So I don't know if you should do as I say or do as I do because we have not quite tested this yet. But we're going to do June in Spain, which we are planning on our own. And we're going to do July in Portugal. A lot of the neighbors have done this Boundless Life program. And this is funny because we actually don't even work with them yet as a travel agency, but they essentially are a turnkey program where they go set up an apartment complex, a co-working space, and a Montessori school.
Is this what Nell did?
It is what Nell did.
Nell Blaine, another one of our fabulous residents we need to get on.
Yes. She can tell you all about Bali.
Yes, she spent the summer in Bali.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about what your plans are. And so you're going through this program?
Yeah, for the month of July. For the month of June, we're doing it on our own. So we'll see how we stack up against a company that actually does it for a living, right? We think we do this stuff for a living. And then we actually get in to plan our own trips and realize we need a travel advisor because 2 kids and traveling, that's a whole new ballgame for me.
Mm-hmm. Setting up an office, you're not just going in for a long weekend.
Exactly. Because we want to be able to sustain the business while we're over there. And you can't do that without childcare or a place to work, reliable Wi-Fi. So it is a whole thing.
Yeah. What part of Portugal are you going to be in?
We'll be in Sintra, right outside of Lisbon. Yeah. Have you been?
Yeah.
Yeah, you went and did a little inspiration touring
That's right.
Last year.
Do they have a biophilia community in Portugal?
Not organized. I mean, it sort of naturally is.
Yeah. That's what I was sitting here wondering. It would be a prime location, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
What places do you want to go that you haven't traveled to?
There are so many. And then there are times where actually, this is funny. Since I moved to Serenbe, I've never felt this before, but I like to be in my home. And so a lot of times it's my husband who's dreaming and I'm going, all right, I'm along for the ride. So we have plans. We would love to get to Rwanda to do gorilla trekking one day. But then there are just times where I go, I'm good. I mean, I know what I have. I look out in my own backyard, which is this beautiful protected trail. I'm in Selborne. And especially on a rainy day like today, I'm a very moody traveler. So send me to Scotland in the cold rain and I'm happy. So this is my version. So is that a silly answer?
No,
as much as I live and travel, I love it here.
I think we hear that from people that we're so busy and we're so frantic and we need to slow down. And Serenbe provides that for you. It gives you the get out of Dodge. You won't need to get out of your home or you need to get out of your head and you can go on the trails and wander around. I hear that from a lot of people. So what's next? The company is 10 years old, 70 advisors. You just launched a podcast. Yeah. Tell us about where your head is, what's been successful. Sounds like you've platformed in a nice place. You're still growing, but looks like you're kind of building up that brand. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, thanks for asking. Well, our goal this year at Jetset was to amplify. And so the way that we started doing that, we made the Inc. 5000 list this year. So that was a huge accolade. So we went from, in less than 3 years, losing our home and community to now making the Inc. 5000 list and a company that has quadrupled in size thanks to the opportunities that we were able to take advantage of from the obstacles. And I feel like those are really important stories to tell. And so much of my story was I hung on so tightly to control, and, I was about to suffocate the business because of that. And then this pandemic journey and this medical journey and this season of loss and grief kind of forced my hand a bit. So I thought it was really important to start telling those stories, which is both Jetset's story and my family's story. So I started a podcast called Who Made You the Boss?
Nice.
The idea is to tackle that control, that illusion of control, to tackle imposter syndrome, the kind of gremlins that get in our head personally and professionally. Mm-hmm. And I have a book in the works as well.
Oh, fantastic.
Yes. So
good.
Thanks. I'm really enjoying that. I love
Same
writing.
name?
No, it's called The Monsters That Save Us.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
So the idea is how we turn those obstacles into opportunities.
Nice.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's got to be very popular in this day and age.
I think it's important. To talk about, because if anyone is an overachiever like myself, and we were just talking about this before we started recording, the way we oftentimes would live in a big city and how we're so go, 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 and you don't realize how you're embodying all of that. And the way I was about to suffocate my own business because I just needed to be the bottleneck, and how amazing it has been since I've learned to relinquish that control and retrain those habits. It was very much a redemption story on so many fronts. And I told you guys that Serenbe was kind of the jewel at the end for me, because we would not have gotten here without all of that hardship.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, and so many of our young people, when they hit a roadblock, they're disillusioned because they think it should all be easier and the world better. So that's an important message to get out there.
It really is. You're absolutely right, Steve. I think we look at success and think, obviously, people think it's just overnight and that success is life without hurdles. But I think it's really life through the obstacles, and success is being able to successfully navigate those and get on the other side and feel I learned a lesson. I came out stronger. My company came out stronger. And we definitely just went through a 24-month period of those where it was very abundantly clear that this was not happening to us. This was happening for us. And now we're able to use it for the better.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, I always say, a good finish has a lot of sandpaper. But a person watching doesn't see the sandpaper.
No.
They just see the shiny finish and think, it's always been easy.
Completely.
So that's great.
Yeah, I like that. I'm going to take
that.
So tell us a little bit about raising the kids here. So you had your first one when you were in Columbus, and then you guys moved, and then you had the second one here. Mm-hmm. Is there a lot of moms? Like, tell me about, or dads, I should say. So many people are rolling around with their kids. Like, tell me what life's like with kids at Serenbe.
Community is so cool here. I never knew to dream of being able to take my children to school on a golf cart, but that is now a dream, I'm glad, became a reality. Or to walk through the trails to get there. To be honest, not that we do that. Most mornings we're a little frantic, but with a 1 and a 3-year-old. Let me give you a story actually from just yesterday. Yeah. I think this is so cool about Serenbe. And Steve, I know you intentionally designed there to not be a lot of garages, right? You wanted people to be walking from their car to their home, running into people, having moments. So last night it starts to rain and I have the girls. My husband was at a Super Bowl game. And not Super Bowl game, Super Bowl view. I don't know. I'm bad at sports.
Super Bowl.
He was watching a party.
Viewing party.
There are parties all over the place.
Yeah. So it starts torrentially downpouring the moment we're about to get out of the car. And I think typical life would be, we're about to get so wet. It's right before bedtime. This is going to be such a disaster. And we get out of the car and my oldest goes, I'm going to cry just saying this. She goes, can we dance in the rain? And I was like, yeah, we can dance in the rain. From here to the car. From the door to the car, we're going to be able to dance in the rain. And we took our hoods off, and even the little baby was laughing. Like, it was just such a movie moment that we wouldn't have had getting out in a garage,
No. And it shows also what I call the free-range kids.
Yes.
I mean, that they had that spirit, that's how they saw it.
Exactly. She wants to take her shoes off and her hood off and embrace the rain.
That's beautiful. That is a beautiful story.
Yeah, I think kids in Serenbe are like one of the most magical aspects.
People that are visiting, they want to kind of understand some of the things, and I encourage them to go over in front of the school at 8 o'clock in the morning and watch kids coming out of the woods by scooters, by golf carts, walking, cars, and it's just
really
such
special.
an energy that 20 minutes there is just
it's adorable.
I agree. We are very happy to be raising a family here.
Yeah, it's really great. I mean, my kids, like, seriously, this is home. Like, they see that sign on the corner and like they're home. It's just the whole place. It's not just the house. And that's just a unique, I don't know what it is. It's
That's it. I, in my email to you guys, kind of mentioned there was a specific moment for us where we felt like this is home.
Yeah.
And I think because so much of our journey had to do with losing home and losing community. And we actually had moved into Serenbe March of 22. I'm bad with numbers. I think it was 22. And we rented, right? We actually rented in Crossroads, and we rented the unit that everyone calls the gateway drug, because they say you'll rent, but you will die soon after. You will be here forever.
Yep.
So we rented in the gateway drug, and that always felt good. You know, we were in the community. But then when we actually purchased our home, I will never forget the moment, the night that we moved in. The kids were in bed, and it was right around the holiday time. So, and since we're over in Selborne, we had those beautiful twinkle lights set up. It was a couple of years ago, right? And we had no idea if those twinkle lights were in there all the time or if they were just put in place for our move-in celebration.
Exactly. That's exactly why they were there.
Kids are down. We pour ourselves a glass of wine. We sit at this $200 Walmart table that we still have yet to replace because we've just been on this journey from place to place to place. And we see those twinkle lights come on, and we just wept. We were like, this is it. You know, this is what it was all for. And now we're home. Yeah. And it just, there are those little magical moments. I think that you don't even have to look hard for them, but because the lifestyle allows you to slow down, you're able to spot them a lot easier.
That's great.
Yeah.
Look at there, Monica. You didn't know. That's a story on the lights.
On the twinkle lights, I know.
Sure. Oh, we love the twinkle lights.
Oh. So as we're wrapping up, is there anything that we haven't touched on that you want to share with us about travel, about your family, about Serenbe?
Gosh, I think that I love meeting people. And so I don't know if there's ever a position for mayor available. I'm happy to step in. But I love meeting people. And so I think if anyone hears this conversation and just wants to reach out to go grab a cup of coffee, that is my favorite thing about Serenbe is how approachable everyone is. And please connect with me on Instagram at Lindsey Epperly. We also go by my husband's last name, which is Sulek. So, you know, we can find us either way. But I just really enjoy meeting the other residents here. And what I like the most about it is that until you listen to a Serenbe Stories podcast, you probably don't even have an idea who you're meeting or what their story is, right? Like just little bits and pieces come out over time, and they're so approachable. So that's maybe the only thing I would add is we too are approachable. Please reach out.
Yeah, no, and I love that. I think that's great. And I think the final question we always ask is, what would you recommend somebody come do when they're here? Now, I think your lens as a travel expert is a little different. So I'd love you to put that hat on and say, what should people do if they haven't been to Serenbe? What should they experience?
Right. You know, what I love about travel is how often we're able to get out of our comfort zones and try something new. And something that I have found almost consistently every time I have a friend coming to visit that they have not tried is aerial yoga. And we were talking earlier, Katrina and I, about Jenny Mathis, who we adore. And we will book that as a private class for friends coming into town because it's just such a unique experience. And then you feel more in line once you've done any sort of yoga or meditation practice. But to get up on those silks and to swing around and kind of have that out-of-body experience is so special.
That's great.
Yeah, that is an incredible. And we've talked about, like, when I do that, like, practically in tears, there's something so different of moving you out of your head and body. It's incredible.
It's
so
really
yeah,
special. I want one installed, honestly.
Okay, good.
I kind of would like that silk to just cocoon in on a daily basis.
I'm sure they could figure out a place to put that in your house. Yeah. And, you know, we'll put in the show notes for Jenny's class, and we'll put all the Jetset and everything, and maybe even a Boundless program in there.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Lindsey. I appreciate your time and sharing your Serenbe story and getting to know you.
Thank you both. This has been a really fun conversation.
Great hearing more of your story.
Thanks.
And there's several more questions there. This could go on for some time.